The Octatrack has quite the interesting selection of effects to offer, and today I want to have a look at the comb filter effect and share some ideas of what to do with it. So let's maybe start with a quick word about what a comb filter is. It's that metallic tinny sound you sometimes hear when a sound gets reflected from a flat surface. And the way I understand it, what it is just a very short delay, and depending on how the original signal and the delayed signal overlap, some frequencies get cancelled out and others get added up. And as a result of this, what we hear is kind of a distinct pitch. And what pitch this is depends on the delay time. So this makes it really easy to tune a comb filter, and that's also the reason why we have a pitch setting here instead of a delay time. Now let's maybe just have a listen to this comb filter. What I have in here right now is this sample, just kind of a noise thing. And then when I dial up the mix here, we start hearing this additional pitch. And by turning this pitch knob, I can tune it to any note I would like. Then next to the pitch setting, there's a tune setting, which lets you fine tune the pitch. Then next, there's a low pass filter, which only filters within the delay circuit of the comb filter. So the original signal that comes into the comb filter is always going to get through it with all its frequencies. And then there's a feedback setting, which does what a feedback setting in a delay usually does. What this does to the comb filter is it makes the pitch that we hear more and more pronounced. This goes both ways, positive and negative. Negative meaning the signal that gets fed into the delay has its phase inverted, which leads in this case to a pitch 1 octave below the one with the positive feedback, and also kind of a more hollow sound, more like a pulse wave. And what this feedback setting also does is it makes the sound longer. If I set the amp envelope of this sample to something really short, by dialing up the feedback, the note still rings out because it is a delay. So if I were to set the pitch to something lower, which means a longer delay time, that effect gets even stronger. With the feedback off, very short and long. This is nice for string-like sounds, so that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to enter some more triggers into the sequencer here. And then maybe I'm going to modulate the feedback parameter of the comb filter here for some variation in the length of the note that we hear. I'm going to set this to hold and the wave to sample and hold. Maybe increase, speed should be fine. Too much depth. Adjusting the amp here a little bit. Adjust the pitch. And similarly to exchanging the sample, just adjusting the start parameter of the sample, because it's only using a very tiny snippet of the sample, will change the sound of my string here. Same with the pitch. Maybe filter it a little bit. Add a bit of reverb. Yeah, this gives you a nice string-like sound. Sounds a bit more like when you're hitting a string instead of plucking it, which brings me to my next application. It's also nice for drum-like sounds, which are similar in the way that they resonate, I guess. Here I've got this bass sample. Just going to add this into the sequencer. And what I'm going to do here is add a envelope to the pitch setting, so to speak, of the comb filter, so the drum goes a little bit like boom. So first I'm going to turn on this comb filter. The note the bass is playing here is a C, and I'm going to add a G here. maybe a bit high. I'm gonna go one octave lower. And now, like I said, I'm gonna use LFO 1 here to put an envelope on that pitch setting. So I'm gonna go to comb pitch. I'm gonna choose this inverse exponential shape. Then I'm gonna set the trigger to 1 because I only want this to happen once when the sample gets triggered. Increase the depth. Now it's way too slow, so I'm going to speed it up. That super annoying loud sound from outside you're hearing, that might also have some comb filtering on it. Some real life comb filtering. This has been going on like this all day and it's really annoying, but kind of fitting, I guess. Comb filtering. Yeah, but I preferred it with the windows closed. It's still loud enough. Turn off this track 1 for a second. Yeah, sounds a little bit like a drum. So on this track, I've got a second comb filter and I'm going to do the same thing, but this time from the opposite direction. I'm going to set this to a B flat. Filter it a bit. And then I'm going to use LFO 2. This time I'm picking this exponential shape, set the trigger to 1 and 16, something like this. Oh, I have to set this to comb tune. The first comb filter makes the note glide upwards into a G and the second comb filter downwards into a B flat. Here's without any comb filtering, just the low note. This is the G, and this is the B flat. Now I've got more than just one bass note in this sample, so I'm going to make use of this and make this sequence a bit longer. So I get 2 bars of the C and 2 bars of the E flat. But the settings in the comb filter are still going to remain the same, a G and a B flat, which works nicely with both. Now this one is for the friends of the more experimental kind of music. Now in here, I've got another kind of noise sample. If I were to modulate this comb pitch setting with the sample and hold, dial this up. Maybe slow it down a little bit. Gives you these kinds of sounds, which I think is really cool. Add some reverb. Slow this down some more. Or maybe use LFO 3 to modulate the speed of the sample and hold. So I'm going to set this to LFO 2 speed. And this to a random shape. And there's your track, basically. Make the reverb longer. Maybe use this LFO that's left to modulate some other parameter. I'm gonna modulate the start point of the sample. This is just gonna give me a slightly different part of the sample every time it triggers. So let's do this. Slow this down even more. But then increase the modulation here. so that maybe we sometimes get some fast burst of changes. It's very nice. I can try and add some more triggers. Here negative. Cool. I like that sort of thing. But if you're more into the traditional sort of melody, what you can also do is, instead of using a sample and hold here, use a custom designed LFO to sequence this. So let me demonstrate. For this, I'm going to go to the LFO Designer, press T1 here, so I'm adjusting the T1 shape. And then in here, 1 equals 1 semitone. Unlike with the pitch setting for the sample where 5 equals 1 semitone, here it's just 1. So by setting this to 3, I'm going to get a minor third. You can also adjust multiple ones at once by just holding down the buttons and then dialing in maybe 7 for a fifth. I'm going to go 12 for an octave, maybe one negative one, -2 for a seventh. Oh, I have to make sure I go back to track 2 now. In here, where I'm modulating the comb filter's pitch, I will have to set this to T1. And then the depth needs to be at 127 for this to work. And I'm going to set the trigger setting to sync trick, which means it's going to restart the sequence every time the pattern repeats. And then the speed probably to 32. I have to find out. This gives me quarter notes, so I'll have to set this to ×4. And now we get this sequence out of nothing, which is really nice, I think. Again, adjusting the start point here for a different part of the sample. Could also adjust the pitch, which doesn't have an influence on the pitch of the sequence, just on kind of the wave shape. I could dial back the envelope here. Maybe enter all triggers here. Now what's super nice about this is that this sequence I created with the LFO Designer, I can easily use it on some other samples as well. So let's maybe go over here for a second. Here I've got a beat in this track 6, which sounds like this. And by dialing this up and then just setting up the same modulation here, LFO1 to comb pitch, and then shape T1. Speed, what did I have to set to ×4? And this set to sync trick. And this all the way up. This beat is kind of playing the same sequence. Very nice. This, by the way, anyways, is always nice with a beat, even without the, or is it this one? Without the LFO mod. It's kind of nice. By using this pitch, if I were to use this sequence again, where was it? Here. We'll offset the entire sequence. So because this is so much fun, I did it one more time here on track 7. There's another beat. And again, I'm going to LFO1. I'm going to set this to comb pitch, shape T1, dial this all the way up, this to sync trick, and this to ×4. And then here's the comb filter, maybe negative. Filter it. And then what I also like to do is make these guys short. So I'm going to use the slicer for this. I'm going to slice this up into 16 slices. And then I'll have to turn the slicer on. And then I'm going to use another LFO, LFO2. I'm going to set this to start, ramp up shape. This I'm going to set to sync trig. This I'm going to set to 32 and this to 64. Because this easily allows me to make those triggers short. And now with the comb filter, you can hardly hear the beat in the background, but I can bring it back in if I want to. A huge advantage of the comb filter setting is that it lets you sequence pitch independently of the pitch that the sample is playing. This is really nice when you're working with something that has different pitches in it. I've got here this guitar sample. Then instead of using the LFO Designer, what you can also do is just sequence stuff by using parameter locks. So I'm going to do this here. For example, here, I'm going to set the pitch. Well, by default, it's set to C. So I'm going to set this to a D sharp. And then dial up the mix. Now what's happening is that the sample is re-triggering. I don't want that, so I'm gonna hold shift and press this a couple of times until it is green. And now what this does is only change the parameters locked to it, like the pitch here, for example. So now, and now we hear the second pitch, which first is playing a C, and then here it changes to a E flat. I'm gonna add another one, maybe here, and set this to a F. Maybe this needs to go up one octave as well. Up. We set this back to C. Filter it a bit. So now we've got sort of a second melody, kind of a false polyphony, second melody superimposed on the one that the guitar is playing. What this also allows me to do is just to move the sample and maybe have it start here. And the second melody still is going to stay where it originally was, or here. I like this. And let's maybe hear everything together. Something sounds awfully wrong. Yeah, it's this guy. Maybe this is set to some wrong pitch. Let's have a look here. Pitch. Yeah, A is not nice. Set it to C. I've got 2 more tracks left here on track 4. I just have a kick drum, which is nice to have one in here. I mean, for the kick drum, you could also try to do something with the comb filter. I have one on here, so maybe set this pitch to just the root note, which is a C in this case. And let's mute the other stuff for a second. Maybe 1 octave lower. Why not? Just makes things louder and longer. Let's try negative. Almost adds a bass note to the kick. Yeah, why not? But what I really want to show you as one last thing is what's also possible with the comb filter sometimes, especially with the lower notes, is to catch a different harmonic than the one you dial in with the comb filter. So here, for example, on this track 8, I've got a bass line. Let's hear it first. When I set this comb filter to a C, you get what you would expect. Just this additional C to every note that's being played in the bass sample. But when I set it to this G, we sometimes hear a D. The notes in the sample include a G and a B flat, and I think that's where the D is happening because it's among the first harmonics of those notes. And when I set this 1 octave lower, I think the effect should be even more pronounced. We even get different octaves of the C now, which would be the first 3 harmonics of the C. A C 1 octave higher, and then the G. And I think that's a really cool sound. It almost sounds like you're playing a harmonic on a guitar or something like that. And it's very nice that it's possible to achieve this with a comb filter. Now what I did here is, just for fun, set things up so on the B scene, we have everything that's going on here without any comb filtering, which sounds like this. And then on the A scene, with the comb filtering dialed up. I mean, it's mainly the mix setting of the comb filtering. I think that's really cool what you can do with a comb filter like this. Just add a bunch of melodic stuff on top of something that's pretty much just a beat with the bass line. I could even get rid of the guitar here and still have plenty of melodic content. For tracks like this one, where I have it split up into slices, I can also drop out some stuff. Here's my 3 tracks that are using the LFO Designer for the sequence. That's a reverb here. Yeah, fun stuff. Yeah, I hope you found this interesting. If you have some ideas of how to use the comb filter creatively, please let me know. I'm always curious to hear. And for now, let me just say thank you for watching, and bye-bye.